Testing 1, 2. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. We may have a few members that'll be trickling in, but I want to be mindful of everybody's time, so thank everybody for being here. I guess first up, we've got Department of Administrative Services. Commissioner Sullivan, come on down. I know you've got some other special guests with you to talk about all this good stuff you've got going on. So welcome, and for members that are here, we're working on section 12, big page 3 of your track sheet. So the floor is yours, and thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for members of the committee. We do appreciate the opportunity to be here today to speak about the governor's budget recommendations for DOAS. First, we fully support the recommendations. There are 2 recommended changes to DOAS, both in the Risk Management Services Program. And I do have Wade Dameron, who is the Director of Risk Management for DOAS, here with us today to assist in answering any questions about that program. First, would like to address the ad for the property program. This is on page 12 of the tracking sheet, line 12.6.1. There's been a recommended $18.597 million to provide funds to meet the cost of excess insurance for the property program and projected claims expenses. As an initial matter, DOAS provides property insurance to protect the state's $37.4 billion in state-owned assets. That's over 15 million. 15,000, not 15 million. I didn't think that seems right. 15,000 buildings. In FY18, just to give you a little bit of history, to provide some background for this request, total annual billings for this program were reduced by approximately $5 million, and those billings have remained flat since then, except for a one-time state appropriation that we received in FY19, while expenses to the program have increased, particularly the cost of the annual premium for our excess property insurance that has significantly increased since FY19. So without the additional funding to support this program, DOAS is projecting a $15 million deficit at the end of FY23, and the program trust fund will be fully depleted at that time. So this recommended appropriation will allow DOAS to address the projected deficit and add a small cushion to the property trust fund. Through this direct appropriation, we also avoid putting any additional burden on agencies through increased premiums. So we very much support that recommendation. With regard to the workers' comp program, line 12.6.2, there is a recommended appropriation for $150 million to provide funds to pay negotiated workers' comp settlements to reduce outstanding claims and associated costs. So over the last several years, the workers' comp program has been funded at a level only to meet the current fiscal year obligations for that program. And while we have taken steps to drive down costs for the program, particularly through our comprehensive loss control program, return to work programs, and agency self-assessments of their risk exposure, the costs of the program have risen across the board. And in 2017, the Georgia Department of Audits performed a program audit on DOAS's workers' comp program, and the results of that audit did indicate that the program was not adequately funded. Since that time, DOAS has not received any specific funding to settle the old claims that are reflected on our books, and year after year, those old claims have negatively impacted the projections for the programs, for that program. So this recommended appropriation and the amended will greatly help us in resolving this issue and improve the overall financial health of the system. Our plan is to use this one-time appropriation to settle targeted claims to drive down outstanding liability to the program and avoid costs in the out years. So similarly to the property program, this one-time appropriation avoids us from assessing additional billings to the agencies and allowing them to retain their funds to meet their core mission. And I am happy to take any questions about either of these programs or any other program at DOAS.
All right. Well, thank you, Commissioner. A couple quick questions, I guess, maybe to start. So the 18 million there at 12.6.1. By doing that, I know you said you had a 15 million deficit. Will that be enough to hold y'all over for the next couple of years, or take away hurricanes and natural disasters? Where does that put you going forward?
We think that this puts the property program in good footing for the near term. We can never predict what weather will do, what Mother Nature will do. So given this recommended appropriation, we think that it will significantly improve the health of that program.
Okay. All right. And then on the 150 million and 12.6.2, what will that save the state going forward, settling these cases? And won't there be a big savings? I mean,
we do think there'll
going
be
forward,
a big saving in the out years, and savings that we'll be able to save on the particular cases that we're targeting for settlement. We can reinvest in the program to settle more claims in the future and continue to reduce the outstanding liabilities to the state. So we do project that this appropriation will save the state about $24 million in the short term, and we do project that we will avoid claim costs in the out years. It's hard to predict the exact number, but we do believe this is a wise fiscal financial investment for the state.
right? And this will settle how many? Do we know claims?
We're targeting over 700 claims.
Okay. Okay. And back on the property too, how many claims a year do we have on average?
I'll have to defer to our Director of Risk Management Programs. About 200.
Okay. And that's pretty consistent?
Yes, sir. Again, if you take out Mother Nature and her strange activities, on an ongoing operational basis, we see around 200 cases per year. Water damage, you name it.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm trying to stall here to see if there's any more questions, but, and now, there you go. Whip Patchett.
Actually, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a question, but I came in late, so if we can get together after this to discuss that 150 million, I'd love to, so you can educate me better.
I'd be happy to do that.
All right. Also, just looking here, I've noticed that there are not raises in your budget.
Yes, sir. My understanding is we don't normally receive, DOS does not normally receive a direct appropriation for personal services. So because of the way that we're funded through other funds, primarily through assessments to other agencies, a direct appropriation was not included within the governor's recommendations. But thank you for asking that question and for looking out for our employees. Our employees at DOS are our biggest asset, and we certainly want to make sure that they are taken care of and receive whatever benefit every other state employee has. We have looked closely at this and believe that we will be able to absorb the cost of the $5,000 COLA within our for the amended.
Okay. Do you have a number on what that would be by chance?
I do, and we will be happy to pass that on to our analyst.
Okay. All right. Good deal. Thank you. Anybody else got any questions? I don't see any. I think we're good, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Look forward to talking to you more.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
All right.
it.
All right. Next up, we've got Department of Natural Resources. Commissioner Williams, come on down. And I don't think I said it earlier, but this is the subcommittee of General Government Appropriations. So always good to see you, Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
The floor is yours. Members, he's on page 34, page 11.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. We've got a few primary changes in FY22. Increased funds for a $5,000 pay increase for all full-time benefit-eligible employees. Under Departmental Administration, line 34.2.2, have $1.2 million to replace 45 vehicles that have outlived their useful life. Under the Wildlife Resources Division, line 34.9.2, some good news, $871,210 for the Wildlife Endowment Trust Fund based on actual sportsmen's lifetime licenses. So we We had an increase in sales there. And those are our major changes, Mr. Chairman. I know that's short and sweet, but I wanted to mention GOSA. This committee will be taking up the GOSA slate. The trustees voted out what we feel is a good list. My board, DNR board, will take that up Friday morning at their meeting based on statute. They're the next entity to vote on it. And then we'll be back to this committee and the Senate committee for that. And just as some highlights, we feel like the trustees have done a good job with balance. We funded a lot of local projects, and just for your knowledge, we funded 10,000 acres a year in the 3 years. We're right at 30,000 acres for the public to hunt and fish on through that program.
Good deal, good deal. Well, we look forward to seeing that and hearing about that, and that's good. And I know we've worked hard on your agency over the last few years trying to get things where they need to be, and which kind of leads to my question. I guess I wanted to ask, how's your hiring situation as far as game wardens go? Are you in good shape now, or with the raise that's coming now? What does that look like for you?
We certainly appreciate the governor's recommendation on that raise, and hope that the General Assembly will support that. That's going to go a long way for morale. We're about in the same situation with all law enforcement. There has been some turnover in our agency. Currently, we have 184 sworn game wardens, and we've got 18 cadets that are down in the academy. They started January the 9th and will finish June 17th. We have an extremely long training period for game wardens. But we have had some turnover. We've lost a few to the patrol, and I know you've heard from other agencies that sometimes the feds have a better pay scale, and that affects our agency too, not just with game wardens, but with biologists.
Gotcha. Okay, got a question here. 16.
How we doing?
Good.
Good to see you. Just out of curiosity, so the on 34.2.2, are these all different kinds of vehicles? Because
Yes,
I'd like to buy a $26,000 car.
That's a great question. We've got a total of 996 active vehicles, and that's not counting EPD that's sort of attached to us, and 483 of those are eligible for replacement. 216 are over 10 years old and exceed 135,000 miles. 102 have more than 135,000 miles, and 165 are over 10 years. Now, we use them. We have front-facing vehicles for our park managers, our game wardens and stuff, but we have a lot of behind-the-scenes vehicles. We do on our parks. We do a lot of landscaping. We do a lot of house cleaning and stuff, and so the vehicles are working fine, and we certainly appreciate this appropriation. We try to prioritize every year. We know y'all have a tough job, and all agencies have vehicles, but we like this number, and we hope y'all will support that from the governor's recommendation, and we'll continue to bring our worst needing replaced vehicles every year, but we try to in-house prioritize.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Commissioner, I don't see any.
Thank you.
So,
Look forward to
Yep.
bringing the
Thank you.
GOSA presentation and next year's budget.
All right, sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you. All right, next up, we've got Department of Labor, and David's gonna get that connected there. As many of you know, the commissioner's wife has had some issues, and so he's gonna be joining online with us for his presentation. Commissioner Butler, can you hear us? Members, while David's working on that, we'll be in section 32, Department of Labor. It should be on page 10 of your tracking sheet. Commissioner, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Good deal. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, well, thank you, and I'm sorry I can't be there in person and making this accommodation for me. I really appreciate it. We have a very serious health issue in my household, and I have to be extremely careful where I go right now, especially this week. And so thank you for making the accommodation. It's much appreciated.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The floor is yours.
I try to be like Mark Williams and keep it kind of short and sweet and save most of it for whatever questions you may have. And just take a look at the changes. And if you take a look, there, throughout the changes, let me just hit them and kind of tell you what's kind of going on with them. I'm not exactly sure what the formula they've used in the past to determine the amount of money that they appropriate for raises. I think they just take a look at our state dollars, and maybe there's an assumption that there's some matching funds, which we do not get any matching funds for any of these different programs. It's just straight dollars. But if you take a look at that first change where they add, $38,348 for the $5,000 raise, in order to actually fully fund that raise, that number would have to be $348,871. The 32.3, there was no money added. Take $56,042 to fund a $5,000 per employee raise. Under UI, which is 32.4, they put in 92,181. The amount of money that we need to fund a $5,000 raise per 1,000. And then you get to Workforce Solutions, which is 32.5. The rate $1,029,095. And is we would have to take federal dollars,
Commissioner.
which are being current shortfall, which yes.
We missed some of those numbers there.
Oh.
The internet is not working very well here in Atlanta or wherever you are. Could you need him to go back and 32.4, we missed the number there for the amount needed
32.
for 5,000.
32.4.
32.4.1. Could you go back to there and give us that number?
Okay, I can go back. If you go back to admin, 32.1, they put in 38,348. To actually fund the raise, it would be $348,871.
Okay,
Did you get that?
we did.
Okay, and then the next one is 32.3, labor market information. I'm just going to read you what it should read, because actually there's nothing on that one. They didn't put any money in for the raise there, so that should be $56,042. And then under UI, which is 32.4. All right, they put in the $92,000 there. It should be $673,840. That's 673,840. And then under Workforce Solutions, which is 32.5, they put in 179,598, and that should be $1,029,095.
All right.
And what I was saying a while ago is that, without that money being put in there to make up those shortfalls, you're going to have to take the money out of federal funds that are being used for other things. So kind of in a net effect, it's a cut. And, right now, to be honest with you, and I always have been, however, going forward, here shortly, those funds will be gone, either drawn back up or they have to be reallocated just for capital projects. And then we go back to our regular base, and we would probably not be able to cover that, or they would have to cause a cut from somewhere else. This has been a problem historically. When there has been a raise, it typically is only fractionally funded. and we're left to kind of take, other federal dollars to make up for what we didn't get in state funds.
Okay. So those numbers that you gave us, that's based off of their entire salary, not just the state portion.
No, and that's the number that I gave you. What it should be would be it's not an in addition. It would be the number that it should have been in order to fund the 5,000 per employee raise,
Okay.
all in, including benefits and everything, just like everybody else was appropriated.
Gotcha. Okay, we've got that. Got a question here. Chairman Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Commissioner, for your presentation. I need some clarification, and some of the other presentations, when we looked at the supplemental budget, which this one is, it is just until we go to July, and then we have the full budget for the following year. So where do these numbers apply? Would they not be in the FY23? I'm just curious as to where these numbers should be.
Right here.
Okay, this is the correct, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. It was very muffled on my end.
We got it handled. It's just a clarification on where the raises would be in this budget or the next.
Okay.
So that they would go in this one and then be automatically in the 23. Got another question here, Commissioner. Representative Wiedauer?
This is also a question that maybe it'll just be answered here, just out of curiosity. If we're doing $5,000 per employee, what's the, is it a prorated amount? Is that why we're getting down to $1? Why would it not be a multiplier of 5,000? Or if it's a half a year, why would it not be a multiplier of 2,500?
I can tell you offline, but yeah, it's prorated for the time from July 1st to April 1st when this would theoretically go into place.
Okay,
And then, so some employees were already on payroll somewhere.
got it.
Yeah. Plus benefits.
All right. Commissioner, I think that's all the questions we've got right here inside, except I did want to ask, we've had lots of questions about our offices, and I actually talked to some of your staff about this earlier this week, about our Department of Labor offices getting back open.
Yes,
you want to comment on that for us, please?
We started opening those offices on a rolling basis back in November. However, we've had some challenges keeping some of those open due to a very large increase in the number of positive cases of COVID in our offices and going through the protocols. Like, for example, when we started opening the offices in late October, November, we saw a small increase in COVID cases, but December, we had 52 positives, and just so far this January, we've got 93, which if you take those few months together, that's basically 1/3 of all the positive cases that we've had since the very beginning, going back to March 2020. We've had 351 total positive cases. We've had 24 of our employees become hospitalized. We've had 10 deaths associated with COVID during the crisis. And right now, between managing that and the fact that we have about 20% of our employees that are currently eligible for full retirement right now, and our new hire turnover rate is approaching 30%, which that's kind of what everybody's dealing with, no matter what kind of business you're in. But we're struggling with it also. So a lot of these people we're bringing in to help us, they're finding other jobs, paying more money and walking out the door about the time we get them trained. Right.
Okay. But you're going to be on a continual basis of opening up the offices as months move forward. You're opening them back up. Right.
Yes. Well, all of them are all open right now to the public. A lot of them are going, depending on the staffing level. Some of them are doing by appointment only because you only have so much staff to cover between answering the phones and seeing people in person. So a lot of it's each individual career center manager has to make that judgment based upon what's going on with his head count. And a lot of that right now, it has to do with COVID, because we have seen a tremendous spike. We've even had a lot of issues here in our main office. We have a lot of our personnel who can work from home effectively. We're asking them to do so until we get to the peak, because really we need every single person that we can still even today because our biggest issues we're dealing with right now, we still have, just like, Georgia's court system, we still have a lot of people in the appeals process. Those are individuals who have already been served, either turned down, or in some cases, a business is appealing a decision where they think somebody shouldn't have gotten unemployment. They are appealing. And so there's a fair amount of those cases that have to be heard, and those cases take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour apiece. We have been able to more than double that staff that does that. However, it's still, we could actually probably stand double that number. I don't know if y'all saw the articles this past week in the AJC about the state's court system, specifically Fulton County. I think they were looking to hire 60 new attorneys to help with their caseload, and it's going to take them 3 years to get caught up. It's not going to take us that long, but we're getting near the end of getting caught up, but we're making tremendous progress. And I have been in contact with other states and what they're doing, and we're doing the same thing everybody else is doing, and everybody else is in the same boat that we are, because everybody who got denied, they're appealing. So regardless of what the cause was.
Okay, thank you. I've got another question here, Chairman Parsons.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner, for being here. I just want to make sure I know what I'm looking at here. On 32.41 and 32.51, you had said those numbers weren't correct. I didn't get a chance to write down what you said that they were. But am I reading this correct then that, and maybe I'm not, that your Workforce Solutions part of your department is about twice as large as the unemployment insurance, or am I not reading that correctly? As far as the number of employees that would get the $5,000.
I can get you the actual numbers of employees in each one. I mean, these are broken off over several programs right now. I can tell you that, even though you would think UI would be much higher, we ended up having to hire a lot of temporaries and bring back a lot of retirees to help with that situation. So the $5,000 raise does not affect that nearly the same. So it's kind of a different animal, if that's kind of what you're asking.
Well, I guess kind of. I mean, I don't really know how the department is broken down as far as the different parts of your department. I was just.
Oh,
I
okay.
guess I'm
Yeah,
just
now,
thinking.
I see what you're saying. Well, a lot of the UI personnel actually are either based remotely and have been for years, or they're here in the main office. There's a little bit of that in the career centers, but not necessarily historically. Most of the career center staff is Workforce Solutions. Their main job has always been to help people find a job and get a job. However, we drafted those individuals during the crisis like we had to. I mean, if you take a look, before the pandemic hit, we had roughly a little over 1,000 personnel in total throughout the entire agency. Only about 320 of those people did some type of unemployment insurance work, whether it was tax or unemployment, straight up. And so, the quickest way to add to that number was to take people like, say, for example, from Workforce Solutions and other things like that, and, pull them over to the UI side using the federal dollars that we got. There. I mean, you don't have to go out and hire them and find them somewhere else. And so typically, a lot more people work in that area because they're spread out over the entire state.
Okay, that makes sense. I appreciate that. Yeah,
Okay.
I know all of us, and I know that y'all have worked really hard on this, but we just received so many calls about the unemployment insurance. But you're correct, and I appreciate the answer. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I caught that.
Okay. All right, Commissioner, I don't see any more questions at this time, so thank you for joining us, and I hope everything at home gets worked out, and we'll be thinking about you and your family. So just thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for your thoughts there. Thanks.
Yes, sir. All right, next up, we've got Department of Audits and Accounts. Greg, come on down. Members will be section we got here, 4. Section 4. Good to see you. Thank y'all for being here.
Control left, right on your slide.
Do what?
Which way go? Your slides with.
Oh, that up and down?
Yeah.
Okay.
This will go to the next one. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to be here. Good to see you and members of the committee. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here to talk about our amended FY22 budget request this afternoon. And before I get into the details of the budget, I want to quickly go over and provide an overview of the organization and some highlights from the past year in activities. So just as a reminder, we have 3 operating divisions whose output is basically to issue reports to key stakeholders about matters of significance. Those reports come from, again, a couple divisions. Our financial audit division conducts financial statement audits and issues audit opinions regarding the accuracy and completeness of the financial statement information. One of the biggest projects that group works on is the annual comprehensive annual financial report. And in fact, as of today, I believe the FY21 ACFR, as we call it, is now complete and has been posted to the state accounting website. That group is by far the largest. It has about 160 staff members in that group. Our performance audit division conducts audits on efficiency and effectiveness of the public sector agencies and programs and on their agency performance. That group has 25 staff members currently. They currently have 7 vacancies. We'll talk a little bit more about that. They've been hit hard this past year, calendar year. They've lost 10 folks. Turnover rate for them is at 30%. They're a small group. And that loss of staff is impacting the levels of experience within that organization or division, and is especially hitting our team leader positions. And those losses are being manifested in the fact that we still owe you, the legislature, a couple of our special examinations that typically we get completed before the session starts. So again, we're seeing our turnover hit our delivery of our products. Our last division is the sales ratio division. That's a group of real estate appraisers, and their job is to issue the annual statewide equalized tax digest. And that group has about 70 people. And then the remaining staff in the department are scattered throughout some administrative divisions that provide corporate services to the entire department. It's roughly a staff of 33. They provide services like HR, accounting, and IT. In terms of, well, let's see here. Is it this one?
Should be, yeah.
Oh.
Probably wouldn't have to turn it on, I apologize.
Oh. Thank you. All right, where'd it go? Okay, so there you go. On this slide, this is provides an annual a review of activities for FY21. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to touch on everything, but I would focus your attention on towards the bottom of that slide. This past year, we issued around 315 financial audit or financial-related audit reports, covering a number of state industry sectors, including universities and colleges, and local school boards. The Performance Audit Division issued 16 performance audit reports or special examinations, and we still have a couple outstanding here. Last year, we issued 129 fiscal notes and retirement certifications. And then just wanted to remind you all, I haven't talked about this much lately. We host the Open Georgia website. So that's the state's transparency website. And that's where we have we have financial information for over 350 some odd entities. That's where you can find the salary and travel information for employees. And I call it the open checkbook, if you will. That's where we record all of the expenditures by expenditure type and by agency. So again, we host that. Again, I'm not sure how many people remember that we are hosting that. In terms of some audit work, moving on, our audit work last year resulted in 33 audit findings and over $673 million in projected question costs at the state level. Our financial audits of school boards included 269 recommendations for improvements to financial reporting and internal controls. And we also identified another 82 recommendations for improvements as they relate to IT and system controls. In terms of audit resolutions for our financial audits, we found this past year that about 88% of our prior year findings have been either resolved totally or partially resolved. And for our performance audits, we found that approximately 80% of our recommendations included in reports were acted upon by either the agency or at the state level. And those follow-up reports for the performance audit group are typically done on a 2-year lag. So we're doing follow-up reports this year on audits that we conducted 2 years ago. So we go, again, every 2 years we do a follow-up. So as you can see from the slide, we accomplished a lot within this last year, and the work is critical to ensuring appropriate fiscal stewardship of taxpayer dollars across the state. But this requires us to have staff of well-trained and experienced individuals perform this work. And it is key that we recognize our most valuable resources and assets, and that is our people. So I want to focus a little bit on some workforce details, and then I'll get to our budget requests. These workforce details, and I'll cover our workforce details and concerns, which really are the basis for our budget request for both the amended FY22 and our FY23 budget. So here, this is basically the headline on the chart. Our DOAA salaries are not competitive with the market. We've talked about this now for several years. This slide shows how far below the market our salaries are within our department, both at a 25th percentile and at the 50th percentile, with the 50th percentile being defined by most folks as the market that people are trying to target. So this information that we have it's based on an independent study that we had done back in 2017, and we've adjusted those numbers and brought those forward with inflation. And so you can see how far below market our salaries are, again, at the 25th percentile. At the 25th, you can see we're down below market from a 12% to a high of around 33%. And as you can see from the graph, the disparity of the differences are greater at our higher pay grades because there are really fewer promotional opportunities at those higher pay grades. So at the lower levels, when folks come in, there's a pretty standard progression. They go from Auditor 1 to Auditor 2 within a year, Auditor 3 within another couple years, up to Senior. So there are lots of promotional opportunities for those folks. They're not as far behind the market, whereas when you get to the more senior positions, there aren't the promotional opportunities that exist at the lower levels. So they're more dependent on annual salary increases and COLAs, those types of things. So they are, as you can see from the graph, further below the market. So like many other agencies, we're all being hit hard by the Great Resignation. However, again, as you recall from past budget presentations, we were experiencing problems competing with salaries in both the public and private sector prior to the pandemic. This is not new. The problems that existed previously have been seriously compounded, though, by the high demand for labor. and increased salaries that are being offered. We have staff that continue to be lured away by our clients, which include state agencies, the Board of Regents, and the local governments and our school boards, as well as some private sector companies. And this is occurring at higher rates, and we are not able to find the people who are even interested to interview to come back into the department. Folks are leaving for, again, higher pay and retirement benefits. Some recent examples, we're seeing people leave for other positions at $20,000 and $30,000 more than what they currently make. We have a local school board here in the metro area that basically hired away their entire audit staff that was working on their audit. They hired away the manager, the senior that was on the engagement, and another senior that was on that engagement. Each one of those folks made over $30,000 more than they currently were making with the department. David, turn myself off. Yeah, it's my fault.
If you are able to actually, theory that. There we go. Something wrong with the computer. You can put that back down. I apologize. You're good to go now.
Good to go?
Yeah, you can put that back down. Here. You'll have it for you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, sorry about that. So regarding vacancies, right now we, in our financial audit division, we have 19 vacancies. If we don't address our current problem, that's going to mean fewer planned audits in the future, and it's going to reduce the cycle time that we have visiting and making on-site visits to state agencies. In our performance audit division, as I mentioned earlier, we currently have 7 vacancies, and I think I may have mentioned this earlier. We lost our entire staff on one of our audits due to turnover. And if we can't address our current situation, this could mean taking on fewer special examinations that are requested from the appropriation chairs. Audits will take longer and actually will result in less impact on improving government efficiency and effectiveness. In isolation, if you look at our turnover rate, you might think our average turnover looks okay. It's about 15 to 20%. That's what it's been for, I think that's the 5-year average. But if you look at the overall headcount in the department, it's shrinking. And of concern, again, is the actual headcount numbers that were decreasing prior to the pandemic. They're now decreasing significantly at an accelerating rate. So if you can look at the chart, you can see what has occurred over the last 12 months, calendar year 2021. Our new hires are not keeping pace with our departures. Over that time period, we had 33 resignations. We were only able to hire 11, so we're down 22. And what's alarming is what's not on that chart is what happened to us in this past January. We have already lost 8 folks just alone in this January. So with our current pay scales, we're seeing very few applicants applying for positions, and let alone any of them accepting offers. So this next chart shows you where our losses are occurring, and we're losing them in our middle manager and positions, our key middle manager positions. These are the staff, these are the ones that are leading our audits. These are the folks that are training our newer staff. And these are the folks that are the pipeline to be the future leaders of our organization in the future. These are the ones that are leaving. We've had 53% of our turnover is at our mid-level auditor position, and another 14% at our senior auditor position. The impact that we're having is our tenure and our level of experience is going down. So here you can see the drop-off that's occurring in tenure between 7.5 and 20 years of experience. We see a big trough there that's a little bit alarming, and we'd like to see that a little more gradual slope down than not that trough. And that declining experience at those levels is going to, again, have an impact on the number of audits that we do and or the duration, and it's both for financial audits and for performance audits. So, again, it's a combination. It's the combination of increased resignations coupled with our inability to get people in the door at our current salaries that, again, are concerning and actually alarming, and what keeps me as the state auditor up at night. And we are at a point where these losses are currently impacting our ability to meet obligations. And I'm afraid if this trend will continue if we don't take some immediate action. Which brings me to our budget. And I know that's what we're here for, so I'll talk about our amended fiscal year 22 budget request. It is our budget request. And to address the lack of competitive salaries, our amended budget request includes $696,000 for ongoing salary adjustments to our staff, to all staff, effective April 1st. This is one step to adjust our salaries to align closer to the market. You need to know the amended budget has 1/4 of the annualized impact of our budget request that's sitting in the FY23 budget. So in our FY23 budget, you'll see another $2.8 million, which is a continuation of these adjustments that we're talking about today. So these adjustments provide for increases to pay bands. It provides flexibility for movement within pay bands to recognize performance and or tenure. And also included in those amounts, they also include overhead costs, related overhead costs, which are now, I think they're over 60%. I won't say well. They could be well over come next year. So I need to also remind the committee members, our department is considered a legislative agency for budget purposes. And this means that the budget that we submit to OPB in September is required by law to be published by the governor without any alterations. So as a result, any statewide changes that might occur from recommendations in the governor's budget and approved by the legislature typically get added to our budget through the legislative process. So for the amended 22 budget, that would mean that the associated cost of the $5,000, the COLA, would also be awarded to, that there was awarded to all state employees, would also be included in our final budget, again, through the legislative process. Typically, the House and or the Senate would add that to our budget as it passed over to the next body. So, bottom line, we are respectfully requesting that our budget of the $696,000 for the pay scale adjustments that are sorely needed remain in our budget, along with the statewide adjustment for the governor's COLA. We appreciate the governor's commitment to the state employees. By including the $5,000 COLA in the budget recommendations, while these funds will help us address a portion of our funding needs, the increase alone is unfortunately not enough to deal with the issues that we're currently facing. The $5,000 alone will not enable us to reach our minimum target salary goal, which is to be at the 25th percentile of the market. We're shooting for the bottom of the market, not the 50th percentile. When comparing to our competitors, which are private sector firms, local government entities, state entities, the COLA, the 5,000 COLA, allows us to keep current with just about everybody else that's getting the COLA. So all that's doing is keeping us current. But we still will remain behind the market and everybody else in pay, and retention is still going to be an issue. The $5,000 helps us move our starting salaries up. It'll help address getting some of the folks in, but it doesn't have a sufficient impact when we're talking about the folks that have been around for a long time and who have not seen increases for a number of years. As a percentage of pay, the 5,000, again, will have a more significant impact on our entry level and our lower paid staff, more so than on our experienced staff. So the salaries for the people that we critically need to retain and to carry on the audits and develop the future people, those folks' salaries are going to continue to remain uncompetitive. So a quick example, currently the starting salary for our financial auditors is at $45,000. That's straight out of college. That reflects where the market was 8 years ago. So an additional 5% for them would be an 11% increase to $50,000. So that gets them closer to the market where we're competing, but the folks we're competing with, their starting salaries are around $55,000, plus signing bonuses and other incentives. So again, we're still behind, even trying to get folks in the door there. At the manager level, managers make around $75,000. Those folks, again, more well-seasoned. They lead multiple engagements. They are very technical folks. An additional $5,000 for them is a 6% increase. Their salaries go to $80,000. Again, we're losing people to salaries that are between $95,000 and $115,000. So again, it helps, but I don't think it's going to help enough at those levels. So that is why it is critical, and that why we are asking to receive both the COLA and the funds that we have requested. So we estimate that the combination of the COLA and our request, the $696,000, that approximates the conservative 25th percentile. And certainly, while that's much better than where we are today, just remember all the other folks that we're competing with are trying to target their salaries at the 50th percentile as the market. I sit on a number of state boards and have been involved in a number of salary discussions here of late, and I can tell you that in many cases, in most cases, those boards, which are commissions, authorities, they are targeting salaries for their folks at the 50th. They are at the 50th percentile. They are shooting for the market. So again, we're shooting at this point for the 25th percentile. So I've got one last slide that I think will pull this all together. So you can see for our performance auditors and our financial auditors, to the far left, that's our current situation. That's where we are below market in terms of salaries. The impact of the COLA gets us less under market. And then the COLA and the pay adjustment get us just slightly under the 25th percentile, if you will, for the performance auditors. And mostly that it takes us to that place for our financial auditors. So the combination of the COLA and the funds, I think they're urgently necessary. Again, they will help us to compete and hopefully improve our recruitment and retention issues in FY23 and allow us to deliver on our responsibilities to the General Assembly in its oversight responsibilities and ensure, again, appropriate fiscal stewardship of taxpayer dollars across the state. So Mr. Chairman, committee members, I appreciate your patience and indulgence in listening through our presentation today. We certainly appreciate your consideration of our request. And just in closing, I'd like to recognize the staff of the Department of Audits for their hard work, their professionalism, their dedication to public service, and their agility and flexibility in accomplishing all that they have here over these last several years in extraordinary times. So with that, I will be glad to take any questions you might have.
Well, thank you, Greg. Appreciate that presentation. And I also want to thank you and your team for what you do, no doubt. And I can tell you, I'm very sympathetic because I farm for a living, and I'm getting paid the same amount for the products I grow and produce that I got paid 15 years ago. And as you know, it costs a whole lot more to do it than it does 15 years ago. And so I can feel your pain, and I know what you're dealing with. And you're our kind of our checks and balances guy. And so you're making sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and the things that we tell people to do, they're doing, and everything else. So we need to make sure that you're in good shape. And I think you've answered most of the questions. I think the only thing we need to figure out is how to help you. So I think the committee will be in agreement there. But thank you for the information. And do you have the number of what the governor's recommendation would be that you can get to David?
We can get it to you. I think we've got an estimate, but we can get it to you. I think it's about $1.5 million, something like that.
Okay, yeah, we'll need that number for sure.
I sent it to David earlier today.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good deal. Well, I don't see any questions, but again, thank you for what you do. Thank you for being here. That's sobering information, and but we're going to work on it. So
No, we
thank
appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, committee members, that's all we got. We don't have any more meetings this week, so you're good tomorrow. You can go home and do whatever you need to do. So, but be on the lookout for next week. We'll get rolling on whatever David tells me we need to roll on. So, David, thank you for your work this week, and we're adjourned.